he was wearing. Anyway, verse 9 says, the king sent to him a captain of 50 with his 50. Okay, now watch verse 9 again. So he went up to him, and there he was there sitting on top of the hill, and he spoke to him, man of God, the king said, come down. Elijah, now this is Elijah, this is our man, he hasn't gone up to heaven yet, but he's fixing to real quick, okay? And Elijah said to the captain of 50, I am a man of God. Let fire come down from heaven and consume you and your 50 men. And it happened. See the latter part, if you will, of verse 10, he says, and fire came down from heaven and consumed him and his 50, and he sent another captain of 50. And he answered and said to him, man of God, thus has the king said, and so he said, come down quickly. And verse 12, Elijah answered and said, I am a man of God, let fire come down and consume you and your 50 men, if that's not true. And then the fire came down from God and consumed him and his 50. Now, the first line in verse 13, he sent a third. Okay, this is the third bunch, and this can be really exciting. Okay. And so he said the fire of God, again in verse 13, he sent a third captain and a 50 with his 50, and the third captain, this is 3 times now, okay, went up and came and fell on his knees before Elijah and pleaded with him. In other words, we can't do this again. Yeah, that's where he's coming across. We can't do this again. We're the losers in this. And you think the guy would wake up and learn his lesson, and so forth. But he doesn't. And so he says, if you will, he fell on his knees, and this is verse 14, if you will, or 13. Man of God, please let my life and the life of these 50 servants of yours be precious in your sight. Now, he said, please, hold it, don't burn us up. Hold on. Verse 14, look, fire has come down from heaven and burned up the first 2 captains, okay, of their 50s and the additional 50, but let my life now be precious in your sight. In other words, will you spare me and my bunch? Now watch verse 15. And the angel of the Lord said to Elijah, go down with him. Do not be afraid of him. Now you're going to see some real humor here in a moment, but you have to make it the humor it's going to be, okay? So he arose, this is verse 15, so he arose and went down with him to the king. Then he said to him, thus says the Lord, because you have sent messengers to inquire of Baal, the god of Ekron, is it because there's no God in Israel to inquire of his word? Now watch this. Therefore you shall not come down from the bed that you're sleeping in, and you will surely die. Now, and sure enough, verse 13, there you have it. Hazael, he died according to the word of the Lord, which Elijah had spoken. Because he had no son, Jehoram became king of the place, and the second year of Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, was the king in Judah. Now, it goes on to say in verse 18, now of the rest of all the acts of Uzziah, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings? Now here's where, believe it or not, our action starts. Look at verse chapter 2, verse 1. It came to pass when the Lord was about to take Elijah up into heaven by a whirlwind. Doesn't that get your attention? It sure gets mine. I mean, it gets my attention. I mean, Elijah's about ready to be taken up in a whirlwind, okay? That Elijah went with Elisha, remember those different names here, and from Gilgal. Then, verse 2, Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here, please, for the Lord has sent me on to Bethel." Now, this is really interesting, because they get into some arguments here a little bit. But Elisha said, "As the Lord lived, and as your soul lived, I will not leave you." So they went down together. That didn't become a problem. You know, he said, "Y'all stay here." He said, "No, we're not staying here." After seeing all they've seen, they didn't want to get away from Elijah at all. And I just found that very, very interesting. And you're going to see more of it, okay? And so he says down here, if you will, so they went down to Bethel, verse 3, he and the sons of the prophets that were at Bethel. Now, sons of the prophets were groups of men and their wives, believe it or not. Groups of men, I don't want to find it here, but groups of men and their wives that Elijah taught. Okay, he taught. They were called the school of the prophets. And a lot of people overlook that. It says, if you will, in verse 3 now, "Now the sons of the prophets that were at Bethel came to Elisha and said to him, 'Do you not know that the Lord will take away your master from you today?'" And here's what Elijah said. He said, "Yeah, I know it. Keep quiet. Be quiet. Now, bring it into American, Jewish, whatever you want language, but get it down there where you can see it. Okay? Thou shalt not." Get it down there. Verse 4, he says, in verse 3 of the latter part, he said, "Yes, I know. Now be quiet about it." How many of you have keep silent? Yeah, keep silent. Okay, keep silent about it, okay? And then Elijah said to him, "Elisha, stay here, for the Lord has sent me on to Jericho." Now look what Elisha said. He said, "As the Lord lived, and as your soul lives, I will not leave you." So they both came to Jericho. This guy's not having any problem arguing with Elisha. I'm trying to bring the humanity to you, okay, and see how human these people were. And he says, so they came to Jericho. Now watch verse 5. And they came to Jericho. Now the sons of the prophets who were at Jericho came to Elisha. That's the sons of the prophets. That was a group. They were schooling, okay? He said, "Do you not know that the Lord will take away your master today?" And Elisha, almost Elijah, a little bit tired of this, he said, "Yes, I know. Now y'all just be quiet. Keep quiet." That's what he's saying. Y'all just be quiet. I know what's going to happen. And so verse 6, he says, "Stay here, please, for the Lord has sent me on." But he said, now watch verse 6 again, the latter part, "As the Lord lives and as your soul lives, I will not leave you." So the two of them, nobody's being struck dead here. See? Are you getting that? Nobody's being struck dead. Okay? And "I will not leave you." And the two of them went on. The 50 men of the sons of the prophets went and stood facing them at a distance. Now here's where the action starts. But do you see already right here how sometimes we read things a little too quick? And do this, okay? Now, you know, me and the preacher, we got these conservative versions, you know, King James and New King James. But it's okay for you to read some other versions to make sense, to try to make sense. If you read chapter 2 here in a real modern version, there may be some mistakes in it, but it will bring out a simple meaning, okay? It would bring out a simple meaning. And so it says down here, and that's the reason I used the New King James, is I didn't want to rock your boat, you know, with the pew Bibles I saw and stuff like that. And the Bible can be taught from any version. Some is good and some is bad. Anyway, and so down here it says in verse 17, Ahaziah died, according to the word which Elijah had spoken, because he had no son, etc. And then, now verse 18, the rest of the acts of Uzziah, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles? Now, what chapter 2? Have I skipped a chapter? Huh? A little bit louder. Verse 7, chapter 2? Yeah, I'm sorry. Forgive me, okay? Gotta really smooth over my wife here, okay? Dummy, why didn't you know that? She doesn't say it that way. Okay, now, two of them went on. Skip down here, if you will, at verse 7. And the sons of the prophets went and stood facing at a distance, while the two went down and stood at the Jordan. You know, the Jordan River is wonderful to me and you, but it was not that hot to people that saw it. As a matter of fact, Naaman comes out at one time. He said, "The Jordan? You want me to dip 7 times in the Jordan? Isn't this river better than that river?" But no, listen. Everything in your Bible, when it comes to Jesus, goes back to born in a barn. Everything's like that. He has no place to lay his head. I mean, Jesus went to rock bottom. And it's just an amazing story because he reaches down to the lowest of the low of the low in order to get understanding here. And so he says down here, if you will, now the sons of the prophets were at Bethel. Come on down, if you will, to verse 6, okay? Then Elijah said to them, "Stay here, please, because the Lord has sent me to go into Jordan." But, as you've already read, he said, "As the Lord lives and your soul lives, I will not leave you." And the two of them went on down. Now, verse 8. Now Elijah took his mantle, rolled it up, struck the water with it, and it divided a way for the two to cross over on dry ground. When you watch Elijah and Elisha, I'm telling you, you're seeing two guys that worked miracles. They weren't miracles left and right, but they never let it go to their head, at least from what I can tell. And so come down here, if you will, in verse 9, okay? And it was so, and so it was that when they crossed over, that Elijah said to Elisha, "Ask what I may do for you." In other words, what do you want? You follow me everywhere. You won't stop following me. What do you want? It's beautiful. And so he said, "Ask what may I do for you," and so forth. And so down here, if you will, in verse 9, stay with it, okay? Elisha said, "Please let me have a double portion of your spirit upon you." And you can't ask me any better than that. What he's saying there is, I want to know God's word. That's how me and you look at that, okay? And so, if you will, verse 10, he said, I've asked you, Elijah says to Elisha, "You have asked of me a hard thing. Nevertheless," verse 10, "nevertheless, see me when I am taken up. If you see me when I am taken up, it shall be so for you. But if not, it will also." In other words, I may be taken up, I may not be. You're not getting it until it happens. See? And so everybody wants everything scheduled, you know, and God said, no, it's not going to happen that way. And so now watch how this happens here. And this is not the chariot that you're going to see later. This is early, okay? There's another chariot's going to be, and you're going to see it, okay? And so down here, if you will, then it happened, verse 11. Then it happened as they continued on and talked that suddenly a chariot of fire appeared with horses of fire. They separated the two of them, and Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. And there's another one coming, okay? Verse 12, and Elisha saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariot of Israel and the horsemen." In other words, he's saying something. So he saw him no more. So he saw him no more. But still in verse 12. And so he goes on and says, and he took hold of his own clothes and tore them into pieces. In verse 13. He also took up the mantle of Elijah that had fallen from him, and went back and stood by the bank of the Jordan. Verse 14. When he took the mantle of Elijah that had fallen from him, and it struck the water, he said, Where is the Lord of Elijah? And then he also struck the water, and when he also struck the water, it was divided this way and that, and Elisha crossed over. Now, watch verse 15. Now, when the sons of the prophets, this is a group of people. Haven't you ever wondered why Elijah wasn't schooling these guys? Well, he was. See, he was. He was training them, okay? And verse 15 says, Now, when the sons of the prophets that were from Jericho saw that, the Spirit, when they and said, the Spirit of Elijah rest on Elisha, they came to meet him and bowed down to the ground before him. Then they said to him, Look, there are 50 strong men here, and then your servants, please let them go. Search for your master. In other words, we'll go find him. Don't you find this a little bit humorous? But really, if you'd have been there, you'd have been like them. Oh, we'll find him. He's out here somewhere. We'll find him. I mean, that's what he's saying. Look, if you will, in verse 15. The Spirit of Elijah rested on Elisha, and they came to meet, bowed down on the ground, and then they said, Look now, there are 50 men of your servants, let them go and search for your master. Then perhaps the Spirit of the Lord has taken him up and cast him on some mountain and so forth. In other words, he may have gone somewhere else. But they saw what they saw happen. But they still are going to persist, and so in latter part of verse 16, he said, You will not send anyone. But when they urged him, he was ashamed and said, Send them. Therefore, they sent 50 men. Now, you see, we would have been in this bunch. We would have seen what happened. The whirlwind took him up. But I would also say, I wonder if he went somewhere else. I wonder if he went somewhere else. And so, therefore, they sent 50 men, and they searched for 3 days and did not find him. Now, what's verse 18 of chapter 2? And when they came back to him, for he had stayed in Jericho, and he said to them, Didn't I tell you not to go? In other words, did you find him? No. I told you. I told you. And I mean, try to soak this in. This is powerful. This is the power that's taking you to heaven. So it's like, you mean this is the power that's taking me to heaven? Whoa, I'm going to stay in this? Yeah. You want to read this. You want to really get that. This is what's going to take me to heaven. Now, maybe it won't be a chariot. You know, we sing the song, Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. You know, we do all that. That was an old Negro song, actually. But it was from the book. And so, if you will, in verse 19, when the men of the city said to Elijah, them, please notice the situation of this city is pleasant, but the water is bad, and the ground is barren. So they tell him that, and this means a lot to them. You know, don't read over any line of scripture and not let it mean a lot to you. And so Elijah said, notice the situation of the city was pleasant, but the water is bad. So verse 20, he said, bring me a new bowl. He bring a bowl, a new bowl. Put salt in it. Let me see, water and salt, not going to do anything. But then when he went out to the source of the water and cast the salt there, thus says the Lord, I have healed this water. From it there shall be no more death or barrenness. Now, these people experienced that. See, are you seeing this? They experienced that. Look at it again, if you will, in verse 21 of the latter part. I have healed this water. I have healed this water from it. From it shall be no more death or barrenness. That means they couldn't have babies. And so verse 22, so the water remains healed to this day according to the word of Elisha. Okay, not Elijah. Elisha, he's gone. Don't you wonder? Don't you want to see? Don't you want to get a glimpse? Look, I don't want to die, but I'm anxious to see all that. Because we're going to see so many wonderful things. Anyway, verse 23, then he went up from there to Bethel, and as he was going up the road, some youths came out, and I don't know why he puts this here, but he puts it, okay? And mocked him and said, go up, bald head, go up, bald head. Really, I mean, we don't do much of that, do we? And so he turned and looked at them, verse 24, and pronounced a curse on them in the name of the Lord. And the 2 female bears came out of the wood and mauled 42 of them. I always thought for a long time they killed them. It didn't say they killed them. It said they mauled them. Okay, they mauled them. Then he went from there to Mount Carmel, and then from there to Samaria. And take a little bit more from this, if you will. But you see what's happening in the situation. Look at in the comments here. I know it's a bad place to stop, but
yeah. Verse 9.
Verse 9.
Verse 9. Notice what he asked for.
Now,
I'm fixing the old Elijah.
yeah, which verse 9?
Verse chapter 2.
Chapter 2. Okay.
Chapter 2, verse 9.
Okay.
All right, he's fixing to go into heaven, all right? And he knows he is, Elijah.
Yeah.
So he turns to Elijah and he says, now what can I do for you before I'm leaving? I'm leaving, so what can I do? What do you want?
That's it. That's it.
He says, notice what he says. He says, in the Quran, I'm reading the King James, let a double portion of thy spirit be upon thee. Now, there's more than one way to look at that, I suppose, and I don't know which one is.
Yeah.
He could be saying, I know you are a great prophet, and I need this double portion because, you know, you're the man. I'm just getting started. And so I need this. Give him the question. Now notice the answer that he gives him. He said, you ask a hard thing. That's a hard thing for me to answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering here why he asked for a double portion, because another way to look at it would be, I'm going to be twice as great as you are.
That I'm glad you're bringing that up. I ran right over that.
So
That's good.
I don't know which way that he's looking at it right here. And notice what he does after this. He takes his mantle, he does the same thing about parting the waters and going back across the river. You see that he does that. But then, and there's so much difference in these two men. One of them serves only 5 years, and the other serves 50 years, 10 times as long. There's a double portion, and a whole lot more than double portion. But look how many times that people are either destroyed or hurt because they made fun of him. The bear, for example, God wouldn't have it. Is that a part of the double portion, or what is it?
I think you're onto something there, but we need to talk more about it right here. You know, I missed a few things you've said, and Charlie, can you help me? I missed a few things he said. This woman can't go to sleep.
I have a study Bible, and in the important part of this, it says, under a double portion, it says, in Israel, the firstborn son inherited a double share of his father's possessions, and with it, the right of succession. Right. A double portion of your spirit was not merely Elisha's request to succeed Elijah in his prophetic ministry, since the Lord had already revealed this succession in 1 Kings 19, 16 to 21.
That makes sense.
Yeah. nor was it Elisha's desire for ministry superior to Elijah's through Elisha, though Elisha did. In fact, do twice as many recorded miracles as Elijah. Apparently, Elisha was asking to succeed Elijah in the prophetic office as God had promised, with spiritual power beyond his own capabilities to meet the responsibilities of his position as Elijah's successor. He desired that Elijah's mighty power might continue to live on through him.
Well, that really makes sense to me. The double portion, because not only did they get a double portion, the oldest son, in wealth, they got a double portion in the blessing. Look at Isaac and Esau and Jacob, for example. What happened? Of course, it got switched, you know. But you can come all the way down to 15th chapter of Luke. The oldest son in the
there you go.
Portion, right? And it's been that way all the way through the Bible and everything, unless God changed it for a reason, which he sometimes did. And that makes sense right there to me, the double portion. That is, I mean, he needed it. There's no question about it. Wouldn't ask for it if he didn't need it. And, but here's Elijah saying, you're asking a pretty hard thing. So there's some funny part of it right there to me.
See his point here? Pretty good, Well, both of them, I mean, you know.
The Bible says it's a noble request. It was a noble request.
It was a noble request. It wasn't to be taken lightly. But
It wasn't like he wanted to be more powerful.
he wasn't asking for that. And you know, reading over this rightly, you might get that idea. But it wasn't. And then one of the things that really gets me about it is Elijah only was served 5 years. We say only 5 years. And here's his successor serving 50 years, 10 times as long. It seems odd to me that what he was able to accomplish during that period of time. Really interesting to me.
Go on.
Sorry for
What were you going to say, huh?
And Google doesn't know everything. I don't always agree with Google, but I think you're right. I think it was a noble request.
Oh, definitely. I do too.
So the other thing that this says is a hard thing. It says since only God can give spiritual power, Elijah did not have the ability to grant Elisha's request. So Elijah told Elisha, Elisha saw his departure would be the sign that God himself would grant Elijah.
Now that makes perfect sense. God is where this goes back to. Not Elijah, but God.
Now move on. Now y'all need to know, I missed a lot of this. Especially when Tyler was talking and David was talking. Anyway, but you know how to stop me. Stop! And then say what you need to say. So down here, if you will, in verse 15, it said, now when the sons of the prophets who were from Jericho saw him, they said, the spirit of Elijah rests on Elisha. And they came to meet him, that's Elisha, and bowed down to the ground before him. Verse 16, then they said, look, there are 50 strong men with your servants. Please let them go and search for the master. We've been through all that. He said, no, leave it alone. Huh? Do what?
You're ready for chapter 3.
You kept you out of time.
But I was, okay, well here's why I was going to, verse 17, when they urged him till he was ashamed, he said, send them. And then, therefore, he sent 50 men and searched for 3 days and did not find them. And when, see, this is a proof that the miracle really did happen, okay? And then watch what he said. He said, did I not say to you, don't go? Now, once again, there's some humor there. Now, I told you, didn't I tell you? You know, that kind of thing. And verse 19, please notice the situation of the city. And then he told about how unpleasant it was and so forth. And so down here in chapter 3, before we get bumped here, in chapter 3, Jehoram, the son of Ahab, became king over Israel and Samaria the 18th year of Jehoshaphat. This has to be there to make everything legitimate, you know, even if it's not interesting. The king of Judah and reigned 12 years. He did evil in the sight of the Lord and didn't do like his father and mother and put away the sacred pillar of Baal. They didn't do that. This is when Israel was in bad shape, okay? And nevertheless, he persisted in the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. He did not depart from them. Now, verse 4 says, now Mesha, the king of Moab, now, you know, Moab's not one of the family members, and yet that's who you're having to deal with here, okay? And it says, now the king of Moab was a sheep herder, and this is kind of interesting. You may find it that way, but it says he regularly paid the king of Israel 100,000 lambs and the wool of 100,000 rams. Now that's a lot, okay? That's a lot. Now since we've been out to West Texas quite a bit and sheep's coming in there, we understand a little bit more of this language. But it happened when Ahab died, verse 5, that the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel. Here we go. And verse 6, the king of Joram went out of Samaria at that time and mustered all Israel if we're going to have a war. Verse 7, and when he went out and sent Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, saying, the king of Moab has rebelled against me, will you not go with me and fight against Moab? And then the story ends kind of like this. He said, I'll go up, I'm with you, my people are your people, your horses are my horses, and which way should we go up? And he said, the wilderness of Edom. I don't know exactly what that meant, but that's what he said, okay? The wilderness of Edom. So the king of Israel went with him, the king of Judah, and the king of Edom marched on the roundabout way for 7 days, and there was no water for the army, nor for the animals, and so forth. So this is how God does some things. Verse 10, and the king of Israel said, alas, for the Lord has called these 3 kings together to deliver them into the hand of Moab. And we'll have to check that out a little bit later, okay? There's a lesson that goes with this.
Oh man, that's a good study.
I know it's
Oh,
good.
that's a good study. I love that.
And thank you for chiming in, because I don't hear anything anybody says out here. Thank you so much. And that's okay. We'll get used to that kind of thing.
It's a good study.
Yeah.
Good study. I love that study.
I know.